BTB's wood-fired pizza and grill in the Mall at Grease Ridge.
Take me out, take me out.
Take me out, we're gonna have
Take
a
me
ball.
out, take me out.
Take me out, we're going over the wall. We're gonna fly.
The Red Wings are home this week. July 4th features the biggest fireworks show of the season and Berserk. Wednesday, all tickets are just $5 with an appearance by the Superstars. Thursday is Pride Night with fireworks. For tickets, visit redwingsbaseball.com.
It's food truck and catering season at Jimmy's East. Platesandshakes.com.
When your old career gives you lemons, throw in some ice, mix in some vodka, and call it a podcast. From the Mac of All Trades studio in Fairport and driven by Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, it's Billified, the Bill Moran Podcast.
Well, hello and welcome. Thanks for getting your pod on. Thanks for telling a friend. That's how we spread the word about the pirate ship. Boy, today, 4th of July, I got a freedom fighter in here. Somebody I've crossed paths with a few times, and then I ran into somewhere and said to me, I didn't think you liked me.
I didn't think you liked me.
Why?
Well, because I tend to be quite polarizing in this community.
Well, you are, but
you
I mean,
know,
that doesn't mean anything. You have to remember, like, an opinion in my world, right? Mm-hmm. You get people, oh, this an asshole.
Yeah.
Right? No, it's halfway between fact and fiction is by definition, right?
Absolutely.
And just because we don't maybe see things the same way, that's the problem.
Listen.
Shannon, that's the problem.
Listen, when I got into this business 10 years ago, I'm Shannon Joy.
No, I know.
Bill Moran. I'm
well,
so glad
Shannon
to be
Joy
with
is
you.
the executive producer and host of the Shannon Joy Show, which is weekdays 9 till 10 on Wham 1180.
On News Radio Wham 1180, 5 p.m., we do a live event on Rumble and Twitter. So it is
I'm not
video
familiar
casting.
with Rumble.
Rumble's like a YouTube. It's a freedom fighting YouTube. Everyone who gets kicked off of YouTube for their contrarian views moves over to Rumble.
Okay.
So Russell Brand is over at Rumble.
Okay.
Joe Rogan he's at Spotify.
Yeah.
Who do we have over there? I mean, a lot of Viva Frey, but you probably don't know who he is. But it's
I'll
essentially
have to
like
check
a
it out,
YouTube.
'cause
Yeah. So
I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we do a
So
live. We run the
wrapped up.
show live on Twitter, live on Rumble. Then we
How are you doing it on
upload-
Twitter? Twitter used to have Periscope.
My producers are wizards.
Okay.
They're wizards. I don't know how they do this.
Yeah.
But they're able to do it. We're one of the very first full feature, full-length shows on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's exciting because now we have Tucker Carlson, who is platforming his show exclusively on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to move that platform into the space, into a Rumble, YouTube type of space, which I think they can probably do. So that's pretty exciting. Then at 6 p.m., we upload everything to every conceivable podcast platform you can imagine, like you're doing. Spotify, Stitcher,
Deezer,
Pandora, iTunes. And then at 9 p.m., we take the best of that show and we air it on
Who
News
does all that
Radio
for you?
Wham 1180.
Because you're,
Well-
and I say that, and it sounds almost condescending when I left my mouth, and I
That's
don't mean
okay.
I don't mean it like that.
That's okay.
But I know you're a mom, and you're very active with your kids, and you're married,
That's
and
right.
you and your husband do a lot of things together. And a marriage, any relationship, you have to tend to it.
Oh, sure.
Right. So, and 9 o'clock is a time when it's kind of family time, right? You're putting the kids to bed, you're doing this sort of thing, and I don't know how old your kids are now, but
Right.
So do you have people that are able to do that for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I contract. People don't realize this, but I do contract with News Radio Wham 1180. I'm not an employee of iHeart or the station, so I purchase my airtime from them, and then I retain commercial inventory and I resell my inventory in the show and on the station. So that's an arrangement we've had for 5 years, and they're wonderful. And so they give me a little bit of production help with that. So there are people that help me as part of my contract.
Oh,
with
how nice.
Wham.
Okay.
And then I also, the video portion of my show, I work with on a 50-50 profit share with a fantastic production team down in Florida. So I send them my interviews, my segments, they package it up, they make it look beautiful, they put the uppers and the lowers, and also help me secure my national advertisers, which we are now starting to get because of the video portion. So I have a foot in Rochester, New York that is very localized with local sponsors, and then I have a national footprint as well as we're building national sponsors. So
I like this. I'm gonna have to talk to you off
oh,
air
absolutely.
about this stuff. My goodness.
Listen, I do it the hard way. This is not.
No. I mean, look.
It's the hard way.
I'll say this: the independent lane is great, right?
Yes.
It's fantastic. I mean, I have this space that you came in, and you have your stuff going on, and there's nobody there to get in your way, but there's nobody there to get in your way or help you, right?
Right.
And so that's where you're doing it, and I was I don't think you know exactly what you're getting into until you're in it.
Oh, sure.
And then it's like, shit, it's too late. Now I got, you know what I mean? So that's the stuff. Well, how would you describe yourself? How would you describe Shannon Joy? If someone said, what's the elevator pitch on you?
Well, how would I describe myself? I would say, I mean, I know it's cliche, and you mentioned being a freedom fighter, but I would say I've always just been very independent, and I love freedom. Like, the scariest thing to me is a cage, in any sense of the word, right? Physically, psychologically, emotionally. Like, I've always wanted to be able to be authentic and to be myself, and to do things according to my own morals and values and beliefs. And I never thought that was controversial, Bill. When I started this show 10 years ago, everything I've gotten into since then is usually starts with me asking kind of an innocent question that I thought was self-evident, right? Even on the vaccine issue, I got into this posting on Twitter 8 years ago that I think people should decide whether or not they want to get a vaccine. Thought, I'm like, this is a no-brainer, right? Never did I realize that was, I mean, that is going against such a dogmatic, almost religious-like belief system in this country,
right? That
is entangled with pharmaceutical corporations and the government, and you just don't realize this stuff when you get into it. But I never say things to harm people or hurt people or be controversial. It just so happens that the concept of freedom, like true, authentic, like real freedom and liberty, is very controversial. And it always has been for 4,000 years of human history.
Well, I think part of it is, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I always think like, okay, you have the right to say something. I don't have to agree with it or support it, but you should have the right to do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that on all things. And that's where, on the other side, I often think when I this is going to sound really strange, but I sometimes think like when we say words like fight, it's so resistant and so pushing against that we get nowhere.
Right.
And I always change those things. And the only example I can really give would be anytime I know somebody who has the dreaded cancer, and somebody goes, oh, they're fighting, they're battling, they're fighting. And I go, no, they're living with. They're living with.
Right.
And I change that only because I think words have power. I really, really do. And I think that it's kind of can change. You can change your mindset, right? Every subject's two subjects, right? There's the negative end and the positive end.
Yeah.
And you depend on where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I know like for the vaccine issue, and you and I have talked about this, I know many people who didn't want to have it. Right. And they just didn't do it.
Right.
But they didn't go where you were loud about it. And I think sometimes to raise it up, I did get it because my mom was very concerned and I couldn't come visit and blah, blah. And I thought, I don't care. I put so much stuff in this vessel for many, many years.
Right.
I'm proud of that. I'm just saying I did.
I get it.
So I thought, okay. However, to your point, I never get a flu shot.
So you wouldn't normally have gotten it if
probably not
without the societal pressure, without the familial.
From what I thought was preventing people from getting sick, and I didn't want to have that on my conscience that I got someone I was a carrier and I spread and all this. And maybe I didn't do enough research on it and I didn't look at it. So
Well, you did what's very normal, what most people did.
Right.
And they trusted health authorities. They trusted their doctors. They trusted the government, which I don't know why anyone trusts a government.
Well,
but
there's oftentimes, like we had a guy, we talked about Juneteenth, and I had a black gentleman come on and just kind of say why it's important, right? And again, freedom. Right, I mean that's about freedom right there.
Celebrate whatever you want.
But that's I'm just saying that's freedom, right? That was the day that people actually became free. And he said that one of the things in terms of like a subtle racism, and this will go back to the government, is that when crack addicts would be around, people were like lock them up. Mm-hmm. Then when the opioid epidemic hits, we're like, oh well, let's open clinics and let's because it's more opioids affects white people, crack black people. And then he said, crack was a CIA deal that they were trying to launder money. Yeah. And they couldn't fund contraband down south that the government wanted to do. So since it didn't get passed, this was their workaround, and they started crack, and that's how they made their... I went, what? Oh. So then I look it up, and I go, holy shit. Yeah. Now, that's your government.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Then I watched the Arnold documentary, which I loved.
Okay.
And then I said, I got to watch the movie Twins. And the movie Twins is about government, right? And they tell the woman the kids died, they take him, they do this. There's a documentary for real right now on triplets on Hulu where one was sent to a rich family, one was sent to a middle-class family, and one was sent to a poor family.
Oh, my word.
It's a documentary. The government did that.
Listen.
And
all people ask me all the time. They say, "Well, I get
so I hate this, Shannon, because I don't want to be conspiracy theory weirdo."
That's what I'm telling you. People tell me all the time. Now, I'm naturally curious. That's why I have this show. That's what I do. That's why I do what I do. And people accuse me of being a conspiracy theorist all the time. But you can't unsee these things. The Tuskegee experiments. They injected African Americans with syphilis as part of a secret experimentation. Human experimentation conducted in prisons across this country. There is no depth to the depravity and to the evil things that governments will do to their citizens. Mm-hmm. And we tend to export that to China or Russia, the fascists, the communists, the socialists, but we aren't seeing where it is here in the U.S., where there is an element. And you have to be, when you say, you don't want to say the word fight. I understand that.
I'm only just saying that it just seems like when we're pushing against something so hard, we get more of it.
Well, but here's the deal. Okay, in the dark days of 2020 and 21, there was a concerted effort, multi-billion-dollar effort at every level of the government, from the media, from our health organizations, local health organizations, to force and coerce people to take these vaccines against their will.
Okay.
Now, I would have had problems with the vaccines. Just in the rush to get them done, they sped up the process. It was completely shoddy. You cannot do long-term safety testing in 1 year. You just cannot do it. It doesn't matter how brilliant the government is. They don't have a time machine. They can't look out 10, 15 years to see what an mRNA synthetic platform injected into people's bodies is going to do in 10 years. So that was absurd. I would have had a problem with that. But if someone wants to get it and put it in their body, again, I'm okay with that.
You just don't want to be told you have to.
It was the coercion that was moving towards force. And there was a dehumanization effort against the unvaccinated. You remember Joe Biden in the State of the Union address where he said the unvaccinated probably 25 times and dehumanized that population of people. I believe if there weren't people like me and the people who are standing up against this across the country and fighting at that moment, I believe they would have achieved probably a 95 to 99% uptick rate. And there would not be a placebo group right now. There are 35% is the latest estimate of Americans refuse the COVID-19 vaccines. and they've lost jobs, they've lost family, they've lost friends. I've lost half of my friends. I've lost most of my friends.
Well, I can understand that.
You're my friend still, but that's good. But well, come on now. But so it was great duress. Standing up and not taking that vaccine came with a lot of baggage, and so I don't fight unless I'm pushed against a wall. Then the
well, hang on a second.
daggers will come out. I'm going to go to the mat.
Here's where I'm going
to. I will too.
I know you will. But here's where I disagree with you in that I think you do. I think you're loud. Like I have a friend, right? Now there was a place in town, a restaurant, and you got very upset.
Yeah, I did.
I know.
Well, I didn't get very upset.
But hang on a second.
Okay.
If we're about freedom and they're private enterprise, then that's their choice as well. And I have another friend who he and his family did not get vaccinated. And he just decided, I'm not going in. And that was fine. And it was no big deal. And he goes, there will be a time when everything lightens up again and I'll go back in there.
Right.
And that's where I'm saying, like, I think.
Let me explain to you my thought process with that. Okay?
But hang on. This is where I think you come so hard sometimes that people go, well, what the fuck? How come she can go freedom, but then when I want to do what I want to do, now I'm an asshole?
But that's not what happened.
Okay.
So number one, our backs were up against the wall. My mother lost her job, 25 years Highland Hospital. She lost everything because she was unvaccinated.
Yeah.
My sister lost her job, everything. I had George Watts Sr. on my radio program who lost his son.
Who is George Watts?
George Watts Sr. is now the source of one of the largest lawsuits brought by Children's Health Defense. That's Bobby Kennedy's organization. He's amazing, okay? George Watts came on to my son. His son got the Pfizer mRNA vaccine and was dead a month later. And it is confirmed that it was vaccine-induced myocarditis. There are bodies. There are dead bodies. There are women who cannot have babies. There are miscarriages. There are debilitating lifelong illnesses like Guillain-Barré syndrome, facial paralysis, the worst side effects you can imagine, okay? This is where we were at that time. And we were watching the uptake, the coercion, the dehumanization, one business after another saying no unvaccinated allowed. So this is what happened. I had nothing to say about that particular restaurant and whatever their policies were, but they posted a picture publicly on their Facebook page, and it said essentially no unvaccinated allowed. Bring your vaccine card. You are not permitted in this premise unless you bring your vaccine card.
Right. So what's wrong?
So I responded, this makes me sad. And that's it.
Okay.
That's all I wasn't loud. I didn't fight. I didn't call names. I didn't say anything. I said, this makes me sad. Now, I am a public figure. People picked up on it, and it ended up getting big. But that wasn't because of anything I did. They decided to exclude a population of human beings from their premises because of their medical status. That is so dangerous. We were so close. That is so dangerous. And from my estimation, I'm going to fight like hell against that. In the same way people would fight against excluding a black person from a premise, excluding women from employment, excluding a certain religious class of individuals.
Well,
I saw it as the same. It was a civil rights issue. And the courts are going to bear that out, by the way.
I hear you on all that.
The judges, we're winning court cases on this.
The only thing I can think at that time, and it's...
How dare someone tell their employees, you have to, a woman of childbearing age, you have to get injected with an experimental product that could affect your fertility in order to work here. And then to dangle that in front of people and say, you can't come to work. You can't feed your kids. You can't pursue your life. To me, that's disgusting.
Right.
You see how I'm getting right now? Like,
I see it.
So angry.
I see it. But my
it's like a medical rape. I consider that medical.
But take it
rape.
back. Take it back a step if you can.
Okay.
And think of it this way.
You're like my therapist.
Well,
this is cathartic.
No, I'll just take it back a step
and
try to think from the standpoint of people who are being told this and they don't want anybody to. We didn't. It
was a terrible time.
The thing was, we didn't know.
Yeah.
I think nobody operated from we want to hurt you. It was, we want to save you.
Not in the lower levels. So,
but do you
to
understand?
Your point, that's why I said it made me sad, because this was a dark, terrible time.
But even over there,
they didn't want to exclude people. I get that.
He didn't want to exclude people, but I'm saying the hospitals, all this, at least simple. This is a very simple this is a simple person's way of looking at it, but I think it was most
Yeah.
people, was that we have sick people who are already compromised in some way. That's why they're here. And we want to make sure we can keep them as healthy as possible.
I'm sure the doctors and nurses thought that. I can tell you.
I really believe that.
Well, I can tell you, they were pressured. And
I'm
I can
sure
tell
they
you,
were.
the administrators of those hospitals right here in Rochester, New York, every COVID positive patient that walked
Yeah.
through the door that was tested, they
Yes.
got $3,000. Every patient they admitted for COVID-19, they got another $5,000. Every patient they gave remdesivir, they got another $10,000, $12,000.
Yeah, see,
Every patient
this is the
they
stuff
put
that
on
people-
a ventilator,
Yeah.
they got $40,000. And every COVID patient that died in those hospitals alone, without their loved ones, those administrators of those multi-gazillion dollar institutions, those medical institutions, they raked in the cash.
Right.
The CARES money that came in, it's disgusting.
Well, it was the government trying to. I'll say I'm going
me off.
to say it from this side. I think the government was trying to incentivize hospitals to take people that could spread something that could kill a lot of people. We didn't know. I mean, this was like
We didn't.
Do you understand
We
what I'm saying?
didn't.
I don't know who did.
I did. Those of us at the very beginning who have been in the vaccine
Hang on a
beat
second, man.
knew
How
from the
would
very
you,
beginning.
Yeah, but how would you know?
Well, I'll tell you how I
I
knew
mean,
about
you
the
haven't
money.
been in a lab studying stuff.
I
mean,
did-
I know
I
you're
did read-
smart, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, yeah.
I did read the CARES Act. So I did know
Yes.
that there was. I read the bills and I read the emergency orders at the state level and federal level. So I knew about the money trail right when it happened, and I reported it.
Okay.
This is what put me on.
Well, I would always say in anything,
Yeah.
follow the money.
Oh, sure.
Right? And we've been
Sure.
talking about Big Pharma for years, and we've seen things.
We also knew about the mRNA vaccines. They had been testing mRNA COVID-19, or not COVID-19, but corona vaccines for 10 years. There were multiple animal studies that I referred to on my show. This is why I was on the wrong side of the people who are trying to implement this. Because we knew that there were major problems with mRNA. It's why it hadn't been released yet.
All right, let me ask you another question. Completely away from
Okay,
this.
all right.
You say I'm on the wrong side. Do you feel like you're attacked at times?
Well, I think I'm uniquely prepared to do what I do because
Do you feel like you're attacked at times?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Do you
Well,
think
yeah.
do you think part of that is because you're a woman? And I mean that. And I
No.
don't mean that in a negative way, but sometimes
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
let me tell you how people like this are described.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
right.
how some women who have
Yeah.
strong opinions
Yeah.
and big personalities, I was
Yeah.
going to say big mouths, but that sounded mean. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
right? And so because, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think it's because I'm a woman. I think
Okay.
there are
All right.
challenges.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you feel that way because I don't know.
I
I'm
think
asking.
anyone saying the things that I would say. So if you look at Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Peter McCullough, Jay Bhattacharya, some of the most brilliant, some of them were up for Nobel Prizes. I mean, these are some of the most brilliant medical scientists. Sasha Latipova, who's going to be on my program later next week. These people are I mean, respected, established. They completely canceled. I mean, called every name in the book. So it doesn't matter if you're black, white, young, old. If you are going up against this power structure, and we're in very dangerous times. This is why I'm earnest about what I do, because I love my kids and I love freedom. And I can see what they're doing because I study them, and I've been studying them for 10 years. And so, in terms of being a woman, I think that in this business, it's male-dominated business.
That's what I mean.
Political commentary,
But I mean,
radio.
even in terms
And
of
so
acceptance.
I am not help. I'll tell you what, I've had no help.
Yeah.
That's what I will tell you.
Okay. All right. This is what I'm saying.
I've
like,
had no help.
You said to me when we started, I didn't think you liked me. And then I said, no. And
Yeah.
you said, well, I'm very polarizing. Okay. So when you're polarizing and you're a woman, I feel like that's another strike in society, in the
is true.
world.
You know
and I
what?
don't mean that in a mean way. And I don't mean to sound, I'm just looking, I'm
I'll tell you.
observing.
No,
I'm
you're,
observing
you're
the world.
right in this sense, okay? Big names like, we'll say Brother Weeze.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sure.
Other big names, even on my radio station, News Radio Wham 1180, okay? They're men.
Yeah.
They can be controversial. They can be, sexist. They can say they can basically do anything they want.
Right.
And it's all show. It's all, they're allowed to, but for me, it's, you know, you can't get a foothold. This industry is interesting to me that, you know, I've had to, despite.
But do you think you'd have a stronger foothold if you had either
played the game?
No, a softer approach. And I don't mean that you have a harsh approach, but I'm just saying, like, I do think, like, the way I described it is raw, and I think that you come, and
I'm ready to go.
Or on the other side, if you had more of a liberal outlook on things.
Yes.
This would be,
yes.
yeah, okay.
You are allowed to
All
be
right.
woke. I still look at this industry and even in this community, and the women are sidekicks. The women are, you don't have, you know, my show is called The Shannon Joy Show.
Yes.
It's not Bob and Shannon or Bill and Shannon or, you know.
I tried to get Bill and Shannon, but you said, go fuck yourself. And I went, all right, fine.
This
All right,
is
there
fun.
she is.
Though.
Wow.
This is so much easier than a 1 hour monologue, though. Let me tell you. Like,
I'm sure. Yes, it is. The conversation's nice. I love talking to people,
Yeah.
and I, like
Me
you,
too.
am
Me too.
very, very curious.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with you.
Yeah.
I like learning this about you, and I think people need to see it from where it comes. Your intentions are pure. I want to protect my kids.
I appreciate that.
I like freedom. I'm not saying that just because I believe that. I
Yeah.
believe that that's where you come from. That's where
Yeah.
you live. I think that your style and your stuff, and I think the way a lot of times it's presented on, we'll call it on your side, which sounds shitty to me, but on that side, it comes almost forceful. But I think that the only reason it is because no one's listening.
Yeah.
Or in order to get heard. My biggest problem right now in the world of politics when I look at things is the fringes are the loudest, right? Mm-hmm. And so we think that that's where everything is, whether it's the far left and the woke movement and whatever, and the far right and this movement and whatever. And I go, but that's not where most people are. And you can't govern anywhere but from the middle. And we don't have this stuff. And I don't know what.
Well, to your point, I am in the middle.
Yes, I know
And
that. But I think you get
I'm
cast.
portrayed
Yes, because
as
this is why I
out
wanted you
there.
here.
Yeah. I think that, you know, in terms of what we've been taught about politics for the past 50 years, and it's ingrained in our minds. You are a Democrat
Or a Republican, right.
You are right or you're left.
But we're not.
And each has their own version of what freedom looks like, but they don't care about the other thing, right? Civil liberties and civil rights are very important to the left.
Yes.
But they will shove needles in as Alan Dershowitz said, they will strap you down and shove a needle in your arm, okay, and force a medical intervention on you.
All right.
Now, on the right,
Yes.
you know, they really want, you know, their guns and, you know, all that type of stuff, but they're, you know, very enmeshed.
You strapping right now? You packing heat right now?
I have a concealed carry pistol
I
permit.
know you do. I know.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell anyone if I'm actually
Well, you
there.
can't say it if it's
But,
concealed.
Yeah. My Vanish holster. That's a great segue. They're one of my advertisers.
I saw that. I thought I'd help you out a little bit.
VNSH.com/joy.
There you go.
It vanishes under the slinkiest dress you can imagine. They're like, one picture a month is part of the deal, and I think it's cool. It's a great company, and
Okay.
Yeah.
I see my whole thing when it comes back to the vaccine, and I hear you get very worked up and passionate. I'll say this. That's not fair. I don't like worked up because that sounds mean. Passionate.
Yeah.
That's a fair thing to say. You're very passionate about that. And I would say that I do believe, at least in the beginning, that even though there was money and stuff, I would still in my head, and I know nothing. I'm just looking at this as a human. They were trying to incentivize hospitals to take something that we didn't know was very scary. Bring these people in, get them out, right? We had people dying in nursing homes. There was a segment of the population that was much more vulnerable to this and still probably are. And I think that the idea was to get the vaccine. Now we're starting to see, and I think that people like you have, maybe you're being proven like you were onto something.
Yeah.
And that's got to feel a little bit better because I will tell you,
it
like,
doesn't feel better. It's tragic for me. I can tell you the phone calls, the letters, the interviews, the moments I spend a lot of time with my listeners. I show up at their protests and their organizations. People who lost their grandmas and grandpas in nursing homes in the most evil and decrepit and horrific situations, right? Imagine dying alone, completely isolated. It was such a dark time, and no one really saw it. That part of 2020 was not presented to people on the mainstream news media. And so that penetrates my heart. And those people, I can never forget them. I can never forget George Watts. And I agree with you that the middle people, so the restaurant owners who implemented vaccine mandates, and the nurses and the doctors, and I would say 90% of the population that complied with all of this did not realize what they were complying with. They wanted to do the right thing.
But
the people who did this to us, though, they preyed on our good nature and our goodwill, and that's so disgusting to me. It's like this: the people there were people. And, that's where we're right now, we're trying to sift through all of this. I love Bobby Kennedy Jr. He's really helping, and especially in terms of you saying what is the middle? Where is the middle?
Where is the middle?
The middle is the most
it's warm.
the most
it's nice.
dangerous place to be, because that's a place where you just really believe in freedom.
Yeah.
And it's not used for a political agenda or a purpose or corporate agenda or a governmental agenda. They hate that. That's what they're trying to pull us apart, and they succeeded with COVID.
I would say you can even, when you take it to the money, take it away from the vaccine for a second, and we can
power too.
Yeah, but we can, and again, it does make us sound like we're sheep, right? The people that did it, in a way. I mean, it does. If we're gonna put it, you preyed on people's good nature.
I would have been a sheep 10 years ago. So my eyes were opened when my kids were vaccine injured. That's when my eyes were opened.
Right.
So I don't want to come here and say, oh, I knew everything and you guys didn't. I didn't know. I was in my category as right wing, a Republican.
Right.
I was in the matrix, so to speak. And then an event happened that made me see things in a different way. And that had to do with the vaccine. So then I went down, you go down the rabbit hole, and it's terrible.
Yeah,
When
you say vaccine injured, I do think that there are vaccines we need, right? We don't want certain things coming back, and if we can avoid polio, and it does pop up.
Wait till you hear about polio. I'm in a deep dive on polio right now. Yeah, I won't go into it. Okay. I'll scare you.
But do you understand? Again, we've seen less of it. We seem to have eradicated that from society. You don't see many people who had polio. I had a teacher who had polio, and he had a very hard time moving, and he was my track coach.
I know.
And he was the best track coach I ever had, because he just focused. He couldn't do what you could do, but he could tell you how to do it. Yeah. But we've seemed to eradicate. So I think in some ways, but I believe me, I'm aware of some of the vaccine injuries and the concerns, and I have been hearing things of people with the COVID vaccine of injuries and things. There's some very, very strange things, and people I know personally that are going through some stuff.
Yeah.
So that aside, but take it to climate change. Now, there's a weather guy that people have gone kind of hard at. He's a climate denier. And he's not saying I'm a climate denier. He's saying, when we put out things
What is a climate denier?
Well,
you deny climate happens?
No,
do you see
he's
how they
saying,
name people like that?
Yes.
That's part of the dehumanization process.
Yes.
Anti-vaxxers, unvaccinated, climate denier.
Right.
It's an ad hominem to just take a person out.
Well, aren't there ad hominems that come from the other side as well?
I don't use ad hominem.
I do, assholes. No, I'm kidding.
Right. No, I'm very disciplined with myself to not use ad hominem.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if anyone could find anything in the past 10 years where I call someone a name, like a person, individual. I will say those rat bastards, but it's usually in general, like the people are doing.
But this guy's thing is we're supposed to have, maybe we could have more 90-degree days than we've ever had. And he said, go back and look. We had in our city more 90-degree days in the 40s and 50s than we've had in the past 25 years.
Right.
But no one wants to look at the data. And he said, I'm not saying that, yes, urban areas where we have more cars, are we warming up? Yeah. But at the same time, we need to look at all the data, and we need to be good stewards of the planet.
Right.
We need to be good stewards of the planet.
Absolutely.
So if that means you want to have an electric car, and here's where I go on electric cars. I love cars, love driving fast. I've driven a bunch of electric cars. I'm just not convinced those batteries are great.
Right.
And the batteries have metals in them. That's why we have Li-Cycle, which is a company here that recycles the batteries, because you need the metals. And we can't get the metals, the precious metals, out of the earth and all this stuff. So, I don't know where the right thing is, but if you have an electric car, good for you. Thanks.
I think there have been studies done on electric cars too, and
Electric car was first, by the way. And most people don't know this.
Well, and I think it takes up just as much energy, or you use as much energy as a fossil, a
Maybe
a
I just think the
gas-driven
pollution is less, right?
I
So we just say
think,
that.
yeah, they don't. Your first clue when someone is not an honest broker,
Yeah.
the first clue is when they launch an ad hominem. So if they call him anti-climate or climate denier, that means they don't want to look at his data. And the reason they don't want to look at his data is because his data will completely obliterate what they're, because remember, everything is about, it's money and power.
Yes, this is what I was trying to get to. Is that if you look at certain
Fear,
funding, is
right.
where is it coming from?
Oh, yeah.
And when I talked to this guy, it goes, because some people will say we're not going to fund that unless you kind of skew it to look this way. Or come with these results. And I think that that's not right. We need to look at things.
Listen.
You have to be, I've always thought like critical thinking is probably something that needs to be taught more. And I don't even know that you can teach it, but looking at all things. This is where, I've always been a big believer. We see the cost of education is astronomical, right? But
that's big money. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yes.
Education, they got rid of the factories. They took the kids out of the factories. You remember their little fingers, and they could, and made that illegal, and then shoved them all into the big boxes in the industrial school system. I mean,
wow.
So you can, it's the education as it exists today, in my opinion, is about making adults money.
Yeah. I'm thinking of college, and when I was I was talking college in this, but you're right.
Too.
My point with college was that's gotten astronomical.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because people are using it more as a training school or a trade school, and I think that you need to go for knowledge for the sake of knowledge, so you can be a critical thinker,
right?
So that you can look at all sides,
right,
and go out in the world. And I think that but that's a luxury. That's a luxury these days that many people do not have anymore. And I, with my sons and stuff, I've tried to, we did private schools and all kinds of things because that's a big deal to me.
Right.
Learning to write, being able to look at all sides is very important. That's a skill you need to have.
Well, absolutely. You need to know history.
Yes.
You need to understand history, because when you do, if you look at a history in a chronological way, right?
Yeah.
We don't do that. Notice how they chop everything up for kids.
Yes.
And they make it very confusing, right? The classical education model, which we abandoned 100 years ago in the country, taught a chronological history of the world, starting with the Bible. They did a biblical history as well. And, the Bible is one of the oldest source documents. It should be studied by every kid, regardless of what your religious beliefs are, because of that rich history. But when you look at a chronological history, you will see cycle after cycle after cycle. This is how people can predict things. This is how people who know, and you're like, how did you know that? It's usually people who study history, because the nature of human beings does not change, and it hasn't since biblical times. It hasn't since when Jesus walked the earth. It is always the story is always money and power, and people will do horrible things to accumulate money and power. And when you have a population of people who become sheep, who go to sleep and don't remember liberty, they don't remember our founding of the country or the Declaration of Independence, they will be lured into these situations where the money and power becomes so accumulated and so vast that these people will do horrible, horrible things to human populations. And that's what we're always fighting against,
Yeah, no, I know. But I'm thinking, as you're saying this, I go, sure, but as somebody's running around because they have a job and they got to get to work and they don't want to, and that's how we sort of, I guess, become, as we say, sheep, but you got stuff you got to do, and you're free to go around doing it, and you have a nice life, and you got a house, and you got things, and you can live, and you don't want to get caught up in the bullshit or the fight. And I think that's where people go. I really do.
I know. But, all you need is a remnant. You need a minority of people who talk about things we're talking about today and help people remember those things. And then everyone in their own, people tune this stuff out because they think, well, what am I going to do? What can I possibly do? I don't matter. It's an apathy that is not because people are jerks. It's because they've been convinced by the powers that be. Look at We go from Republican to Democrat president, back and forth and back and forth. And they lie to us. They cheat. They are the worst of the worst of the worst. And they abuse this population of people. And they convince us that we're not, oh, that's just how the sausage is made. That's the most disgusting statement.
I like to say how the fudge is packed.
Yeah. That's just how the sausage is made. They're basically saying to us, though, you don't deserve to have good government. You don't deserve to be told the truth.
Yeah.
And so we've lost that. We can regain that as a citizenry, but it just takes enough people waking up in these conversations. And then in your own corner of the world, do your own little one thing, whether it's, sending your kid to private school, homeschooling your kid.
Do you send your kids to public school?
They are in public school. All three are going to be in Fairport next year. Yeah.
So Fairport just had something where people were very upset.
Yeah.
Because I think they were going to refer to everybody as parents or guardians. They didn't want to talk about mom or dad. And I'm getting all this stuff where I'm like, I'm a dad. And here's my thinking on that. I don't care.
Well, because you don't want to look at what the larger reason they do that.
No, but here's my here's my thing. I will say, I feel like when they do that, you're saying they're trying, at least on a very simplistic look, to be inclusive. But I think by saying that, you're almost taking those people who fit that, have two dads, have two moms, whatever, right, that live with grandma. You're already marginalizing them just by saying it.
Right.
But I go, why do we get so caught up in that when the whole purpose should be to build the kid? I don't give a shit what you want to be talking about, what pronoun you want to, who cares? Fine, I'll call you him, they, she, we, I don't care. But let's get to, how do I reach you, child, and make you feel like you can?
Right.
That's the job. How do I help every kid feel like they win?
You're coming to this from a common sense and rational position.
But my point is, like, all that other shit, seems like we get bogged down. Who cares? Fine, call them parents, guardians. I don't care. But then somebody's going, well, I'm a dad. Yeah, but you're not a dad of every kid there. So why do you care?
But what you're falling into, again, is why. You have to, people who are like, I don't care. Why on earth would these morons, okay?
Well, I think to try to be inclusive. Because we're trying to include
implement it, but remember we talked about the physicians and the doctors and the people who shut down and did this.
Take me down this tree because I want to hear. But this sounds conspiracy to me, Shannon. I'm just telling you.
I'm not. Listen, I've stopped trying to figure out why people do things. I just identify dumbass things.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is a dumbass thing to shove a substance into your body.
Yeah.
That has not been tested or studied. Okay. Period. And it's also a dumbass thing to force other people to do it.
Okay.
Or take away their job. Okay? It's dumb to create 77 pronouns or adverbs and change the entire English language and confuse these little children and tell them that they can be a boy or a girl and all of these crazy things.
Are they telling? See, I don't have kids that age. So are they telling them in school this? This is where I go, come on, man.
Yes. Bill.
What? I'm listening. I'm here.
There is graphic XXX rated child pornography in nearly every library of every Fairport school, including the elementary schools.
Okay, but
these would fit the definition, federal statutes of child porn. You tell me, on what universe?
What books
is
are these?
That okay?
Where
we have identified probably 36, and we add to the list every day.
Okay.
These are books that would meet the federal and state statutes of child pornography. They are depicting children underage having sex with each other, engaging in oral sex. They have pictures, images of men and boys, adult men and a young boy engaging in a sexual act. They have the most graphic depictions of it's
called ancient Greece.
Right, but if you have that on your computer, Bill, if you have that on your computer and you disseminate it, you're going to get yanked for child porn. Yet it's in these schools. Why? You tell me why. Why are they fighting so hard? We have
look, I don't want books banned, but I don't know that. I don't know. I'm not in the school, so I can't say. But how do we? What are the titles of these books? What are these books?
Okay, so this book is gay.
Yeah,
and this book is gay. Among other things, there is a section that teaches kids how to use sex apps. So it's number one, download the sex app, and they have product codes, QR codes, where people can go and they're graphic XXX porn.
Okay.
Number 1, download the sex app. Number 2, take a pic of yourself and upload it. Number 3, turn on your location device so that you can be near the nearest homosexual.
Yeah.
Number 4, you can meet up.
All right.
This is verbatim.
No. Okay.
Okay.
But here's where I think
that's putting kids. They can be trafficked. That's dangerous.
No,
and that book is in the middle school.
You're talking to somebody that was molested as a child. So
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I'm just saying,
sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
So hang on. Just stop for a second. I that's no problem. I agree with you. A book like that is, you're putting kids, we wouldn't want that. Nobody would want that. On the other side of this, though, many years ago on the radio, we did a what we thought was funny. We found out that men who are on the down low, married men,
DL, okay,
would back their car into area parks around here. And if somebody else backed in, they would hook up.
Oh my.
And they would have their gay encounter, and then they would go back to their life. So we thought on our show, let's find out who's the most attractive person on the show, so we would back our cars in. I left with a completely different and very sad view of the world because an older guy, just a happy-looking grandpa, pulls in and pulls up next to somebody, and they said, I'm waiting for my wife. The guy goes, hey, what's going on? And he goes, hey, what are you doing? I'm just here I'm waiting for my wife. He says, the guy goes, I'm married. Okay. And the old man goes, me too. And he holds up his ring. And he goes, oh, well, I'm waiting for my wife. And all I could think was, how sad. Because, as we say, we've marginalized people, and you couldn't be who you are. If you're, and I believe when you're gay, I don't think that's something that you can be taught. You either are or you aren't.
So, I think that this is wrapped up, that, feeling compassion for a marginalized group or wanting people to live their life
100%
is so different than, should we place child pornography in front of children?
No, we shouldn't.
So
we
you
shouldn't.
see how they
Yes.
You see how they call me a book burner. Now, here's the thing about a school library. Do you know there are like a gazillion books out there?
Yeah.
Like, a school library doesn't have to house every single book on the face of the planet. They have a process where they go through and they look for books that are appropriate for kids, that are appropriate for, they have educational value. Okay. So this idea that we want to burn books is insane. That's it. But they do it again. And this goes back to the theme of everything we talked about today. They call those of us who are trying to protect children, they do not want to discuss the merit. They don't want to look at the book. They don't want to be shown. We have binders this thick with documentation.
Right.
It's been submitted. There are investigations at the Monroe County level, the state level, the FBI, and there are now federal investigations into what this is, the dissemination of child pornography. This is a big deal. What they're doing, but they don't want to discuss that. Now, I can't for the life of me figure out why, if it's that they just want to hold on to this power that they have in schools and they just don't want parents. But this goes back to what you were saying about, parents and, refusing to call them mom or dad, or,
you're calling them parents or guardians, and they did that in my school. I think that when you talk about freedom and liberty,
you're not going to hear me freaking out about that. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb.
I hear you, but to me, it's like it's a waste of time. I'm not going to burn calories on something I don't need to do.
The people that get upset about that understand that larger picture. The larger picture is to marginalize and minimize the family and a natural structure family, because government institutions, when they can, part of the dehumanization process is they move people to slavery. You laugh about slavery as if that can't happen in the 21st century.
Hang on a second.
Slavery is the rule of history.
I got you.
Like, that is the rule, not the exception.
All right.
The U.S. is the exception.
My point is, when we say things like dehumanization, I just can't see things going that far. So I laugh at it going, I think we would stand up at some point and go, we can't. The family structure of mom, dad, children, it's changed because people aren't all the same. Not everybody's going to be attracted to a woman.
Right.
And not everybody's going to be attracted to a man
Absolutely.
if they're a woman, right? So we've got that.
Right.
And the other thing is, there was a gay gentleman in here yesterday who said growing up it was hard because I would gesticulate and I had a higher voice and I got picked on in the locker room. And I will tell you, man, I grew up in the 80s, Shannon. I played a lot of sports. I was in the locker room all the time. The worst thing you could have been was gay. We all showered in one
Right.
room with shower heads.
Listen, I
we
feel
would
terrible.
pee on each other.
Okay, I feel terrible. You know what? I was a Christian and a virgin. Imagine that. Imagine being a born-again Christian as a girl and what you get exposed to. I mean, so people have hard times.
No,
and I get it.
That's
but
my point.
There aren't accommodations for Christians. No one cares let's
What are
talk
you
about
talking
that.
about?
Well, if we're going to sit here and talk
Yes.
about how, there are all of these victim groups. I could sit here and say as a woman, I'm a victim. I could sit here and say as a Christian, I'm a victim. But have I told you I'm a victim?
No, and I'm
No.
not saying there.
Because that's not, because
but
that
hang
doesn't
on.
do me any good, and it doesn't do kids any good.
No, but what we're saying
Being
is
coddled and being
you're taking this the wrong way.
accommodated.
What I'm trying to say is, I think like for that guy,
Mm-hmm.
the world today is a little more accepting. If you're different, we're a little more accepting.
No.
Do we need to
not
shut?
of people like me.
Well, that's because you're a big mouth, and you come charging at people, and then you go back
did
to.
you see all the pride flags everywhere? Like
Yes.
everyone has a big mouth.
Yes,
Like
but-
they
yes,
there's
yes.
there's
But see,
there's
they say it as
no
acceptance, and this seems like
except of people like me.
well, who's not accepting you? Who's
Well,
not?
I mean, I
who's
don't-
not accepting you?
I don't even know.
You can't. See, that's what I'm
Nobody
saying.
likes me.
No,
No, I'm
but
just
I
joking.
mean, and nobody's
it's-
against Christians. Christians, look, I always thought I'm not a very religious person.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that I am more of a spiritual person, and I do think that there are lessons in the Bible. I think that it's been widely misinterpreted, and I think there's all kinds of things. And I think when you talk about power and stuff, Jesus got really pissed off, and he went into the temple and he kicked over tables and he screamed at people, "This is the house of my Father, and you're selling money and
He
doing
came with
things."
a sword.
And
He came with a sword.
and they basically, that was when they decided to kill him. And he believed when he did this, he killed a fig tree on the way in. He was so pissed off because it wasn't bearing fruit. He was hungry. He was hangry.
I know.
Right? He was hangry, and
I
he killed the
always wondered
tree
about that scripture. That was one that always confused. I'm like, why would you? It's
because
poor
he was
tree.
so mad.
I know.
And Peter said to him, Jesus, he had the balls to go, "Why did you kill this tree?" And he said, "If you believe, fully believe, you can move a mountain."
Yeah, mustard seed.
But you can. And I think that's where we lose it. Our minds are so powerful.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get caught up in this resistance and fighting that we just don't go anywhere. And we get all this drama and we play it out. We become Shakespeare. Life is but a play.
By that example, there would never be a Sam Adams. There would never be a George Washington. There would never have been a Revolutionary War. There would never, you need people. I know that it's uncomfortable and you know what? I'm not calling for everyone to stand up.
No. I hear you.
I feel, in terms of my faith, you cannot separate what I do every day from my faith. I am a Bible-believing Christian, non-denominational. So I've read my Bible, Old Testament to the book of Revelations multiple times. I started with a children's Bible, by the way, because it was easier.
Yeah.
It's lovely. I recommend it to anyone if they ever want to do that. The understanding that you get just even if you're not a Christian. So my faith drives everything that I do, everything. And so the idea of standing up and fighting is something that I feel like I just have to do. And I have to do it because I know that other people won't, and they're afraid to. And I want to do it for them. I want to do it for my kids because something inside me was built in a way that I can have people not like me or not like the show or say mean things to me or mean things about me, and I can lose friends. And while I don't like that, I don't care that much. I don't like it, but I'm okay with it.
I think you I think it bothers you, and I think it
It's not
puts
easy.
armor on you.
It's not easy.
And that's where I feel like you feel like now I've got to fight against because nobody likes me.
Bill,
Nobody likes me.
everybody loved me before I started my radio show.
Yes.
Well,
you were.
and I never
didn't
wanted,
you do like beauty tips or something on Warm?
Yeah, it was,
Soft Rock Station.
Styles with Shannon.
Yeah,
was because when I got into this, I wanted to do exactly what you were talking about. I am not by my nature an aggressive person or a mean person. That's not my nature at all.
Okay.
But
so
the
what
nature
happened?
of what? Well, I'm I don't think I think
I'm
people
teasing
think
you.
I
I'm
think people
teasing
think
you.
I'm different. They hear about my show
Yes.
and they hear about who people say that I am.
Yes.
But I don't think a lot of people actually
That's
go
why
and
I asked you,
listen.
how would you describe
Yeah.
yourself when we
Yeah.
started? That's why I said
Well, I'll tell you, I love Jesus.
Yes.
And every day what I try to do, and you cannot because I'm a sinner and I make a million mistakes, but I try to be as much like him as I can. That's really who I try to be. And like I said, I make a lot of mistakes and I don't do things,
Well, Jesus to me was pure positive light.
but he did carry a sword.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he was pure positive light.
Yeah.
And I always think of things like, if anything, you want to do anything in life, I always think back to when he would cure people, like, right? And he would say, go forth and tell no one, because everybody's going to come at you with what I would say is a pure intention. I would even say the people who got vaccine, it was with a pure intention. And I think that they're going to tell you, well, he cured you, but it could come back. And then you start to put doubt in your mind.
Yeah.
And that's why he says don't. And that's why anything I'm going to do, I usually, if it's a big idea, I don't say anything until I'm down the road a little bit, because people will talk you out of stuff. And I think that sometimes, the other thing that Jesus was like, some people think he was the ultimate hippie in terms of loving and accepting.
Well, he came to fulfill the law, not abolish the law.
Right.
So he upheld the Old Testament law, and he was very clear about sin. He was very clear, and he did not say that we come to everything from good intentions. He said we are sinners by nature. There's bad in us. But through him, he's, that was very clear. That's biblical.
I know.
Now listen, that's why you read it.
Well,
okay,
I
you read it to see kind of where do I believe this, and I went through that whole process of trying to figure out if I believed. I was raised a Christian, and then I was like, do I really believe this?
I was too.
And so I looked at all the other religions, and and I'm like, what? I'm going to go straight to the source and see if I believe this.
I know you got a kind of a heart out here,
Yeah,
but let me just say this in terms of the Jesus stuff. I think there are many teachers, and I think Jesus was a wonderful teacher. I think the message comes from different people in different ways. It's usually kind of the same thing. I think our life is lived in our mind. I think we can get caught up in a lot of things. You and I could go to the same party. I could leave there thinking I had a great time, and you could leave there going,
"This is so good." Though conversations are good because they get you out of your.
No, I agree. But so when I look at all this stuff, like with Jesus and things, I always think you are more energy than you are physical being. And you got to kind of tap into that. And I feel like there's so many messages in the Bible and things that we miss on that. Yeah. I think there are things that were said by him and by others that kind of go, hey, there's nothing really going on here. We're making it up.
So much in the spirit. This is something I've learned over the past 3 years, really. But, here's the liberty message, though, in all of that. I have my belief system as a Christian, and I believe certain things that might be offensive to other people, and other people believe things that might be offensive to me. The Bible, in the creation, we were created in the image of God, and we had a touch of the divine, which is free will, the ability to choose him or to reject him. So there is a liberty message. This is why I would never say we should ban, homosexuals or ban, unless it's dealing with children. You mess with children and I'm going to come at you. But in terms of adults living their lives, you'll never hear me making determinations about that. I do believe, because I believe God told us that.
Yes.
He gave us the choice.
Yes.
Right? That's part of my belief system. So that's how you can that's how you can be a Christian, but also embrace liberty,
right? And
maybe not approve of certain lifestyles or decision making or the way, or not even approve of it. Maybe not believe that is godly, I guess. But you can still sit with a person, respect their humanity.
Yes, I agree with that, but I also
and love
think
them too.
I think that a very simple philosophical idea, and it was many philosophers had this early on, but it's a very simple one: is that there is no evil. If everything comes from source, which is God, and it's pure positive light, there's a privation of good. That in everything there is good, even in the evildoers, there is some good. Right. We just have allowed things to go the other way. And I'm not saying that there isn't evil.
A danger. I think that's dangerous.
I understand.
Because the evildoers they'll manipulate and use that.
Right.
They'll use that to get a foothold. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
All right. Well, look, I can't. I mean, people are going to hear me say that and go, well, how do we talk about in the inner cities where people are killing each other like crazy and we got, people stealing cars? That's evil, right? Well, we have laws. We have laws that need to be worked on, clearly, but we have laws. I just think that most people, it's that. And I think that sometimes when we put
that's what makes Americans sitting ducks, though. It's that because we don't believe. See, I get this all the time. No one can believe that there are people that evil. Some of the people who do these things, you can't conceive of it because you would never do it.
I understand that,
but
I
makes
also
you vulnerable.
But let me go to the other side. I think that when we always live in fear of this shit, we can't truly live.
You can never live in fear. Do I look like I live in fear?
Well, you talked about a whole bunch of scary shit.
It's scary, but I'm not afraid of it.
All right. But,
see, that's the
difference.
I think,
but you don't know how somebody's hearing that.
I know.
So you need to make that part of your message. I'm not trying to scare you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to open your eyes so you're aware.
Yeah.
That would be my thing. With you.
That's another commandment. 360 sometimes in the Bible, we're commanded to not fear.
Yeah.
So I do, some of the nature of the work that I do is scary.
Fear-based.
Right? Well, no, it's not fear-based.
Oh, bullshit. Most of the stuff is people are scared of anything. I'm scared of the vaccine. I'm scared of this. They're coming after me. They're coming to get me. They're taking away everything. My guns are gone.
You don't listen to my show.
No, I know I don't. But I'm saying to you, but that's how people interpret it.
I know.
And that's not fair either because that's a judgment without your, as you just said, I haven't listened to your show. Right. You're 100% right.
Right.
But I think that that's how people see it.
Yeah. There's a healthy amount. I wouldn't even call it fear. I would just call it knowledge.
Okay.
Knowledge of evil.
Yes.
And you have to do business with that because if you don't, it's going to grow and fester and grow and fester, and then you can't stop it. And so we got to address it. You have to face it, and that's really. I mean, I'm not fearful. I'm saying let's face this. This is a big, scary thing. There are bad people.
Yes.
Corporate, governmental institutions within our military, and they do bad things.
I don't think they started out that way, but I think they're trying to hold on to power.
I think you're right.
And so that's my point of
I love the Constitution.
But that's my privation of good.
Yeah.
Right? That would be the we started with pure intentions, but now we've gotten here and we need to protect it. And so we do these things. And that's where, and you're right.
I think we agree.
We agree on a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This is really fun.
Well, listen, I'd love to have you back because I'd love to talk about the documentary that you've been working on. You were just down in New Orleans. And
projects.
Yeah, I know. You've been doing a lot of stuff and I really appreciate it. The show, Shannon Joy Show, where do I go?
Follow me on Twitter at Shannon Joy Radio. Go to Rumble, follow the Rumble show, give us a thumbs up, and theshannonjoy.com is my website.
All right. Happy 4th of July, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 96 in Victor.
Land of Legends Raceway in Canandaigua. They were not racing there this past Monday, and they're going to make up those races on July 19th. But they are racing this Saturday night. Get down there. Bring the family. Oh, they got a brand new grandstands, infield jumbotron. You won't miss any of the action. And what I think is really cool is this pre-race interactive Little Legends Kids Club. It's where your kids can go. They can make crafts, but they can also get up close with the drivers in their cars and really see what it takes. I find those things mind-expanding for little kids, right? Oh, I could do this? It's really cool to bring your kids and just expose them to everything, especially at Land of Legends. And if you get hungry, well, of course you will. They have mouth-watering concessions, novelty stands, food trucks that'll satisfy any craving at all. You'll find the schedule at landoflegendsraceway.com. So why not make a visit to 2820 County Road 10 and let the adventure begin. Land of Legends Raceway, the ultimate dirt racing experience.